More than 3,000 men are still entombed inside a warship sitting on the ocean floor, and no one has gone to get them. Not in 10 years, not in 50, not in 80. The ship has just been left there, resting in the dark, with the bodies of its crew still sealed inside. And the reason no one has raised it is not what most people assume. It is not laziness, it is not indifference. The truth is far more complicated and far more human than that. This is the story of the Yamato, the largest battleship ever built, and the mission that sent it to the bottom of the sea. To understand the Yamato, you have to understand the position Japan found itself in during the late 1930s. The United States had an industrial base that Japan simply could not match. American shipyards could produce warships faster, in greater numbers, and at a scale that made direct competition impossible. Japanese military planners knew this, and they accepted it, but they believed there was another way to secure naval dominance. Instead of building more ships, they would build one ship so powerful, so heavily armored, so completely overwhelming that no American battleship could survive an encounter with it. The goal was not quantity. The goal was a single weapon capable of deciding a battle by its presence alone. Construction began in 1937 at the Kure Naval Arsenal in Hiroshima. The scale of the project required changes to the shipyard itself before a single piece of steel could be laid. The dry dock had to be excavated a full meter deeper just to accommodate the hull. Entirely new cranes capable of lifting 350 tons were designed and installed specifically for this build. The workforce involved was enormous, and the secrecy surrounding the project was extraordinary. Screens and canopies were erected around the entire dry dock so that passing ships in the harbor could see nothing of what was being constructed inside. Workers were not permitted to discuss their assignments. The Japanese government understood that if word reached foreign intelligence services about what was being built, the strategic advantage of surprise would be lost before the ship ever launched. When the Yamato was finally launched in August 1940, the numbers were unlike anything the world had seen. At full load, it displaced nearly 72,000 tons, a figure that no warship before or since has matched. It stretched 862 feet from bow to stern. Its armor belt was over 400 millimeters thick in places, designed to absorb direct hits from the heaviest guns any enemy fleet could bring against it. But the defining feature of the Yamato, the thing that set it apart from every other battleship in history, was its main armament. 9 guns arranged in 3 triple turrets, each barrel measuring 46 centimeters in caliber, the largest naval guns ever mounted on any warship anywhere. Each gun could hurl a shell weighing 1,460 kilograms over a distance of 42 kilometers. Each turret alone weighed 2,774 tons, more than most of the destroyers the Yamato would sail alongside in combat. No Allied battleship carried anything remotely comparable. The Yamato was commissioned in December 1941, within days of the attack on Pearl Harbor, and it immediately became the flagship of the Japanese combined fleet. What happened next is one of the great ironies of the entire Pacific War. The most powerful battleship ever built almost never fought. In June 1942, Admiral Yamamoto commanded the Battle of Midway from the Yamato's bridge. That battle ended in catastrophic defeat for Japan, with 4 fleet carriers lost in a single day. It was the turning point of the war. The Yamato was present throughout. It never fired its main guns once. After Midway, the strategic situation changed dramatically. Japan had lost its edge in carrier aviation, and without air cover, sending a surface fleet into contested waters was suicidal. The Yamato was too valuable to risk, too expensive to fuel, and too large a target to deploy freely. So it sat. It moved between naval bases. It consumed fuel that Japan could barely spare, and it waited for an opportunity that never quite arrived. The Yamato fired its main guns at enemy surface ships exactly once across its entire operational life. That was at the Battle of Leyte Gulf in October 1944, the largest naval battle in history by the number of ships involved. Even there, the engagement ended without a decisive result, and the Japanese fleet was forced to withdraw. One battle, One time, 3 years of war, the ship that was supposed to be Japan's ultimate weapon had become an enormous, expensive liability that nobody knew what to do with. By the beginning of 1945, the situation was beyond recovery. American forces had been island hopping across the Pacific for years, and Japan's outer defensive perimeter had collapsed. Carrier aviation was effectively finished. Most of Japan's capital ships were gone. Then, on the 1st of April 1945, American forces landed on Okinawa, just 340 miles from the Japanese home islands. The emperor reportedly asked his commanders directly where the Navy was and what it was doing. That question produced an answer, though not a good one. Japanese naval commanders devised Operation Ten-Go. The Yamato, accompanied by the light cruiser Yahagi and 8 destroyers, would sail to Okinawa carrying only enough fuel for a one-way journey. Once there, the battleship would deliberately beach itself on the shore and use its guns as fixed artillery against the American landing force until the ammunition was exhausted. The surviving crew would then disembark and continue fighting on land. It was, by any honest assessment, a plan designed to produce a noble death rather than a military result. The officer chosen to lead the mission, Vice Admiral Seiichi Ito, initially refused the assignment. He called it futile and wasteful, and he was right on both counts. The captain of the escort cruiser Yahagi described the operation as throwing an egg against a rock. The ship captains who would execute the plan were not told the full details until just 2 days before they were scheduled to depart. In the end, every one of them went. The crew had no meaningful choice. Around 80 men who were sick, newly assigned, or physically unfit were ordered off the ship before sailing. 67 naval cadets from a nearby academy who had arrived on the Yamato only 3 days earlier were sent home. Everyone else remained. Some sailors wrote final letters. Some reportedly celebrated through the night before departure. All of them knew the ship would not be returning. If you are finding this story as extraordinary as I did while researching it, consider subscribing, because this channel covers the most remarkable and overlooked moments in military history every week. There is much more still to come in this one. 4 in the afternoon on the 6th of April, 1945, the Yamato and her escorts left port and headed south. Before they sailed, something quietly remarkable happened. The fuel depot workers at the naval base, acting in direct violation of their orders, loaded the ships with nearly all the remaining fuel stockpiled at the port. They gave everything they had. It was an unofficial act of solidarity from men on shore toward men who were not coming back. It probably still was not enough fuel for a return journey. The ships sailed regardless. American submarines spotted the Japanese force almost immediately as it passed through the Bungo Strait between the home islands. Within hours, the intelligence had reached Vice Admiral Mark Mitcher, commanding Task Force 58, the American fast carrier strike force. Mitcher had 15 carriers and nearly 900 aircraft at his disposal. A surface battle using the American fast battleships was briefly discussed and then dismissed. Aircraft would be sufficient. The battleships were not needed. American search planes relocated the Yamato on the morning of April 7th. The first wave of attackers arrived at 12:37 in the afternoon. What followed was not a battle in any conventional sense. It was an execution. Nearly 400 aircraft came in coordinated waves, torpedo planes attacking from multiple angles at once to prevent the crew from maneuvering effectively, and dive bombers dropping from above to force gunners to split their attention. The Yamato had 6 fighter aircraft providing air cover, 6 against 400. In the lower decks, the damage control situation became catastrophic within the first hour. The ship began listing heavily to port as torpedo hits opened the hull on that side. Japanese officers made the agonizing decision to deliberately flood the starboard engine and boiler rooms to counterbalance the list and prevent an immediate capsize. Hundreds of men were sealed into those compartments to die so that the ship could remain upright for a few more minutes. By early afternoon, the Yamato had absorbed at least 11 torpedo hits and 6 direct bomb strikes. It was slowing, listing, and burning from the bow to the stern. Then the fire reached the forward ammunition magazine. The explosion that followed was unlike anything witnessed in the Pacific War. A mushroom cloud climbed 6 kilometers into the sky. American pilots, miles away, stopped what they were doing and watched it rise. The detonation registered on seismographs across the region. Japanese civilians on the mainland reported seeing the cloud from more than 200 kilometers away. Of the 3,332 men aboard, 3,055 were killed in a matter of hours. Around 270 survived, many of them pulled from the water by escort ships. The Yamato never came within 100 miles of Okinawa. The wreck was located in August 1985 by a Japanese research expedition using a deep-water submersible. It lies in the East China Sea at a depth of approximately 340 meters, around 1,100 feet below the surface. What the expedition found was not a sunken ship in any recognizable sense. The magazine explosion had torn the Yamato apart with such force that the wreck exists in 2 main sections separated by an enormous debris field. The forward section rests on its starboard side, torpedo damage clearly visible along the hull. The stern section is completely inverted, lying upside down on the seabed. The 3 main gun turrets, each weighing close to 3,000 tons, tore free from their mountings when the ship rolled and now lie scattered separately across the ocean floor. The superstructure collapsed away from the hull entirely. The ship that was once the most formidable naval weapon in history is now a field of shattered steel spread across a wide area of the deep ocean. So why has nobody raised it? The depth of 340 meters is within the theoretical reach of modern technology, but it makes every aspect of a salvage operation significantly more complex and expensive than a shallower site. That alone would not be a decisive obstacle. The real problem is the condition of the wreck itself. The Yamato was not simply sunk, it was destroyed. The magazine explosion shredded the structural integrity of the hull entirely. There is no intact ship to raise. There is no single piece large enough to be lifted as a unit. A business consortium based in Kure, the city where the Yamato was built, announced plans in 2009 to attempt raising just the main gun turrets and the forward hull section. They estimated the cost in the billions of yen. The project never moved beyond the planning stage. The technical obstacles were judged to be insurmountable with available methods. Beyond the engineering problems, there is something else entirely. The Yamato is a burial site. More than 3,000 men are still inside it, and in Japan that carries enormous weight. The word Yamato was historically used as a poetic name for Japan itself, and the battleship carries that cultural meaning in ways that go beyond military history. It is not simply a piece of hardware at the bottom of the sea. It represents something specific and painful in Japanese memory. A nation that sent its greatest weapon on a mission it knew was hopeless, and the men who followed those orders without complaint and did not come back. Disturbing that site is not a technical question. It is a moral and political one, and there is serious disagreement in Japan about whether it should ever be attempted at all. In 2015, a group of Japanese lawmakers began formal discussions about the feasibility of recovering the wreck in order to bring home the remains of the crew. Those discussions produced no concrete action. The conversations are ongoing, and the cultural sensitivity surrounding the site remains significant. There is one final reality that overrides all the others. Even setting aside the cost, the politics, and the fragmented condition of the hull, no technology currently exists that is capable of lifting 72,000 tons of shattered steel from 1,100 feet of water. The Yamato cannot be raised with what exists today. No technology and no engineering solution of the required scale exist yet. It was the largest battleship ever constructed, armed with the most powerful naval guns ever put on a warship. It was built in total secrecy at extraordinary expense and sent on a mission its commanders publicly described as pointless, with just enough fuel to reach a destination it never came close to. It has been resting on the floor of the East China Sea for 80 years. More than 3,000 men are still inside it, and barring a change in both technology and political will that nobody can currently foresee, The Yamato is almost certain to remain exactly where it is.